With that, we turn this morning to John Paul Mendocha, who's a turnaround specialist, serial entrepreneur, and author of the newly released Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Good morning, John. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Thank you.
Well, it's good to have you in.
A little early here on the West Coast, but I'm happy to be there.
Well, I'll tell you what, we are very appreciative that you got up early with us this morning, John. Thank you so much, and I know it's got to be a very early time for you, but thanks again. But most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. You've got a brand new book out there that talks just about that. Tell us what's going on there and why businesses fail so quickly in their inception.
Well, everybody gets excited about what their business is going to be and what their idea is, and what they never ask themselves is, so what position do we occupy out in the marketplace? And every successful business, every successful product, actually every successful person has some position that they fit into, and that position is really where we start from. And if you don't have the right position, if you don't have that cornerstone, doesn't matter how well you're doing your accounting or all of those other things. What happens is that, well, the crowd never shows up. You never really get to where you need to get to, and therefore you just kind of limp along and you think it's something else, but really it is we made a mistake because we didn't position going in.
So what are the secrets in being successful in that opening 5 minutes of your business, so to speak? And again, 5 minutes being symbolic, but what are the things you need to take care of, the secrets that you need to really sit down and soberly look at?
What you have to really think about is, where do I fit in this whole world that I'm going to go step into? Where do I go and fit into that? You know, a Corvette buyer is different than a Porsche turbo buyer is different than a Tesla buyer is different. Now, where do I fit? And if you don't understand exactly where you fit, then the problem is that you're going to be off on this strange tangent that's going to hurt you. And most of us get very egocentric. We think the world emanates and revolves around us. And what we don't do is we don't understand this whole landscape that we're dealing with. You were just asking the question about greatest sports movies, and you go in and you start thinking about that. Well, the list that you're going to get is a bias map. That bias map tells us what individuals think. This one is better than that one. Maybe I would pick The Longest Yard as the best sports movie ever made, original and sequel. But, that, and you'll say, but wait, that's a real outlier. Well, now that tells a lot about who I am. So who are we communicating to? Who are we talking to? And that's the mistake that people make right up front.
You mentioned right out of the gate about this idea of, I feel really good about this. But how you feel about it isn't really the main thing, is it? I mean, you have to have a passion for it. You have to believe in it. But then there's all these demographic things that go into it. And is it located on both sides of the road? Can both sides of the road get to it easily? I mean, there's a lot of things that go into play here, aren't there?
Oh, yes, very much so. And to that end is so are you speaking to that core group of people that are going to come back? They're going to be that starving crowd. They're going to come back again and again and again, and therefore you're going to be successful today and tomorrow and moving forward. If you want to go study this without actually having to do a lot of work, we all know that coffee was invented in 1971, right?
Right.
Before 1971, there was no coffee because Starbucks didn't exist, but Starbucks came along, and now they charge as much for Starbucks. You think about it, this is just mind-boggling. Starbucks, they'll charge as much for what they say is coffee as, well, most places you can get an alcoholic drink for less money. That's positioning.
I had a guy start a barbecue place a few years ago, and he was on one side of our town. And he got out there and he started this, and he had great barbecue. I mean, the guy, but his prices were a little bit higher. Obviously, you're doing barbecue, you're going to have a little bit higher prices. So at the very end, instead of the beginning, he does a demographic survey, and it finds out that the average salary of people in that particular area was $37,000. But if he'd have started on the other side of town, where the average salary was $73,000, he might have done better. So he did it at the end, and he found this out. I mean, those are things that you really need to know in the beginning, isn't it?
Well, yes, and that's what I mean. It takes you 3 to 5 years to realize it. I'll step in to do a turnaround. I'll ask them, can you name your 5 biggest competitors and really define who they are? And what they'll do is they'll kind of have a list. They'll kind of tell us about certain things. I've got a current client who I'm doing this with right now. He's been in business for 10 years, and he listed who his competitors were, and within 20 minutes, and I know that's longer than 5, in 20 minutes, my team and I, we came up with this massive list of people who are actually in his space. And it wasn't this difficult process, except that we have to face up to some facts. And that's really what stops people from doing it. Successful people, they'll be able to deal with that. They'll be able to look at it and say, yeah, I can deal with the facts and reality.
You have a statement in there that says, everyone wants to be unique. Nobody wants to be different. Tell us a little bit about that. Explain that a little bit more detail.
When you look at how everybody wants to be this unique force, they say, well, yeah, okay, I want to be this thing. I want to stand out from the crowd, until they actually have to stand out from the crowd. And still they want to. So when they go out and they build a business, they usually say, well, we can't do that because, well, look at what our competition is doing. Or we can't do that because that hasn't been done in this industry before. Or, if we do that, we're gonna alienate people. That middling mindset, if you will, means that you're not going to be unique. When I meet people who say to me, we'll go run through some brands, I'll say, look, Apple, the Apple iPhone. Well, wow, super successful. But I know people, and I meet them in airports. I meet them all over the place. I have a business partner in another business. He'd never own an Apple iPhone. He's an Android guy. Well, okay, he's in a different church in a different pew. But Apple isn't going to try to go get him. They're going to get more of me who has a bunch of iPhones. So when we do that, we have to say, okay, we're willing to have what's called the sharp edge, and we have to market to that sharp edge, and therefore you can have your Apple iPhone people and your Android people. Now, sadly, when those two divvy up the market, there's not a lot left for everybody else, which is why Microsoft has come and gone, and that market not been successful.
Wow. So many things to be thinking about this morning. And again, trying to get yourself in a position to win is so important. For more information, you go to Amazon.com/most-businesses-fail-first-minutes. And again, the name of the new book that is out there, John, is Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Check it out. John Paul Mendocha with us this morning. John, thank you for taking the time to be with us today here on WSBA.
It was great. I really enjoyed it.
And I enjoyed it, too. Thank you so much. And again, thanks for getting up early with us this morning.